They say that consistency is the secret to success. But what if that's not entirely true for artists? Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist podcast, where artists of all kinds come to fuel their passion, sharpen their skills, and thrive in their creative lives. I'm your host, Laura Bianca-Pilcher, life and creativity coach and fellow artist, here to support you on your artistic journey. Whether you're a performer, writer, visual artist, or any kind of artist, this is the space for real talk, practical advice, and inspiring stories. Subscribe and join us each week for more inspiration and actionable insights to fuel your artistry. Let's dive in and get inspired. Welcome to Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist, the podcast for dancers, actors, singers, writers, visual artists, any kind of artist who wants to live creatively and sustainably. I'm Laura Bianca-Pilcher, your life and creativity coach, and in this episode we're talking about one of the most misunderstood pieces of creative advice out there, the myth of consistency. Don't stress, I'm going to break it down for you, but so many artists are drowning in guilt over something that was never meant to be done perfectly in the first place. I'll explain, but let's be honest, the word consistency gets thrown around like it's the holy grail of success. You've heard it all. Just show up every day. Discipline equals freedom. If you're not consistent, you don't want it enough. We've heard so many of these sorts of things. And maybe that works for some fields, and maybe some art forms more than others. But for artists, our creativity, this message sometimes backfires. And I've coached dancers who panic if they miss one class, writers who feel ashamed for skipping a few days, singers who lose confidence if they don't practice daily, visual artists who think if they don't post new work every week they're going to disappear. But here's what's actually happening underneath that guilt. So often you've equated consistency with worthiness, and you've been taught to believe that if you're not producing constantly, you're actually failing or falling behind. And it's simply not true, because creativity is not and was never meant to be a factory line. It's a living rhythm, and rhythms need rest. So I am a fan of training. I am a fan of discipline. I'm not saying that I don't believe in those things. They are vital. But what I'm challenging here is the thought that your creativity is actually not about that. It's about the consistency equaling worthiness in you, and that your art is becoming a factory line, and that you're actually pumping things out and feeling like that's actually the way to be worthy. But creativity doesn't work that way. It's a rhythm. It's more about creating that rhythm, and the rhythm needing rest, and allowing yourself to think that way is far more healthy for a creative, and how creativity actually flows scientifically in your body. Let me back that up, because here's the psychological truth. Human beings aren't designed for linear, unbroken output. Studies in behavioral science that have come through Harvard show that creativity thrives in cycles. These studies are on something called flow states, and periods of focused work are naturally followed by rest and incubation. And those quieter times, the non-productive moments, are when subconscious processing happens. That's when ideas brew, connect, and deepen. So the problem? We've built our creative expectations on a corporate productivity model, not an artistic one. So when artists try to maintain factory line consistency, they burn out. In psychology, this is called ego depletion, when the brain's self-control and focus reserves are overdrawn. And many of you are here. This is how burnout happens. For creatives, that looks like emotional fatigue, self-criticism beyond just the normal self-reflective criticism, and disconnection from your art. And the reframe for your brain is that consistency isn't about never stopping, it's about returning. That distinction matters. You can pause without quitting. You can rest without losing your edge. So it's about returning to being able to rest, being able to pause, and realizing that is part of working with your body and its design, not against it. And when I say body, I mean your brain, your heart, your neurology, your biochemistry, all of the above. I often tell clients this: your job is to stay in relationship with your art, not in performance with it. Do you see the difference? Because relationships have seasons. They ebb, flow, breathe, and renew. And so does your creativity. So if you're listening and thinking, that's me, I've lost my rhythm and I don't know how to get it back, download my free help guide. It's simple, science-backed 3 steps to reset, to reignite your passion and your momentum without all the shame and the guilt. You can grab it at larabiancapilcher.com/freebie. And if you're ready to go deeper, there is a very affordable $37 mini course to reignite your creativities and that creative flow in 7 days. And it walks you step by step through a rebuilding coaching process to get back into your optimum creative flow. You can find that at larabiancapilcher.com/courses. So let's get real about consistency. Consistency is not always the badge of honor when you're looking at it the way that we've just been breaking down. It's a rhythm of commitment. Think of it as a rhythm. Some weeks that looks like daily practice. Other weeks it's 5 minutes of reflection. And sometimes it's resting and trusting you'll return. I remember feeling so guilty, like if I was feeling a bit sick or slightly injured, I had this thing of, if I don't go to my ballet class, I am going to fall behind and look like I'm not disciplined, because the culture often in the dance world was that, that kind of non-stop discipline is what it takes to thrive. But when you look at the actual body, you do need to be consistent and you do need to have discipline, yes. But when your body is screaming for rest, it can actually work better. My husband's a physical therapist for Broadway performers. He's worked on West End on hundreds and hundreds of shows and sets. And sometimes the coaching that he gives an artist is, you need to rest so that this can heal. There is a rhythm to that. It's not always injury. Sometimes it's just the buildup of tension, and it goes right across our brain, our entire body. So yes, I do want you to discipline. I don't want to say take months off dance. That's not what I'm saying. Or take months off writing or whatever. What I'm saying is there's a mindset shift that when you think of a rhythm goes musically, and then it ebbs and flows. It has moments of pause, moments of rest, and that's the beauty of rhythm. So think of your life as a creative rhythm and give yourself permission. So some weeks that looks like daily practice. Other weeks, 5 minutes of reflections. And sometimes it's resting and trusting your return. And that's what actually keeps the long game alive for you. You don't want to be the artist that flickers like a dynamite and burns out and has that one moment. That's lovely, but what if you could sustain and have that burn for your art long term, because you recognize this pattern and you are in this for the long game? Because what actually separates professionals from dabblers isn't perfect output. It's returning when it's hard. And the word returning is beautiful. It's returning to the truths of your creativity, returning to the rhythm of your creativity. One of my coaching clients, who was a visual artist using paint, once said, "I realized I'm not inconsistent. I just stopped defining consistency as every day." And she started to track her return rate instead, how many times she came back to her art after a gap. That's resilience, and that's actually creative maturity. Because the truth is, the most consistent artists aren't the ones who never stopped in all of the many days of their life, that never took a break. They're the ones who always come back. And I relate to this because I have had ebbs and flows. I have been, I would say, consistent, but I've also allowed the rhythm of life of having young children, although I fought it at first, to be honest, being a wife, having other functions in my life, allowing myself to enjoy other things in my life. But I have always returned to myself, and I say that as a beautiful way to say returned to my creativity, to my art. Now, art is the expression that I talk about on this podcast of creativity, but creativity and what I coach in is that it's so much bigger than just your artistic medium. That creativity, if you key into it and allow it to be nurtured in the way that we're talking about in this episode, not only will your art flourish, but your whole life will flourish better. So if you have paused, you're not in error, you're not broken, you're not less than, you're in the middle of a natural rhythm that you can now see and give space to. So every episode, if you're new here, I do a Creative Spark challenge. I do encourage you to do these. They are wonderful and easy and things that can easily help you to find new momentum and rhythm. And this week, I want you to do something very simple. Rewrite your definition of consistency. So I'm going to give you the start of the sentence and you can finish it. And if you're driving right now or listening on the tube in London or wherever you are, you can just finish this in your head or put it in your notes in your phone or come back and write it later. But if you're home, get a piece of paper and write it down and put it on your fridge so that you've got that visual cue reminder, which is a really great thing to have as an artist. And here's the sentence to finish. For me, showing up looks like ... Finish the sentence. So again, finish the sentence, rewrite your definition of consistency. For me, showing up looks like... Finish the sentence. Keep it realistic, flexible, and kind. Please be kind to yourself. You need to choose something that your future self can actually sustain. So examples of that might be, for me, showing up looks like writing a gentle rhythm of 5 minutes every day on Sunday afternoons, and on Mondays that will be 5 minutes of dance. On Tuesdays it'll be 5 minutes of singing. On Wednesdays, do you know what I mean? Like creating something. And if you're multifaceted like me, that's why I gave that example. If you have one art form, it might be that for me showing up looks like Saturday afternoons rather than trying to do something every day of the week when it's just not sustainable in the season of life you're in. Maybe you have little kids or something like that. But create something that does have a sense of discipline, that does have a sense of importance. If you're a dancer, I get the physicality of this. It matters, the physicality of what you're doing and the rhythm. But do it so that it's sustainable. It recognizes your life as a whole, not just your art as an individual piece. And it will feed and you'll have energy and the momentum will work and things will just click better for you. Thank you again for joining me on this episode of Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist. If this episode helps shift your perspective follow the show, subscribe on the platform you're on so you don't miss what's next. I would love for you to leave me a 5-star review if this has been a blessing to you and you're still with me. You can leave a comment. I love to read them. You can also reach out to me on social media with any questions you want me to talk about on the podcast at Lara Bianca Pilcher on Instagram and other places. Remember, consistency isn't perfection. It's actually presence. Presence first with yourself, presence with your well-being, presence with your art. They work in a beautiful way together. Don't forget, I have a beautiful resource coming out for you, Audacious Artistry, my book. You can actually Google it already and find it almost everywhere, even though we're not officially in pre-sale. You can order it now. It officially comes out in February 2026, but this is a book written for you to have, to do in a group of an artist circle, and it's reclaim your creative identity and thrive in this saturated world that we're in. This book is actually a story of my consistency, my returning to my art over and over again, and exactly what I've talked about in this episode. This book ebbed and flowed. It wasn't like sitting down every day and just writing. I had weeks of that, days of that, and then I took breaks and I recharged and I reset and then I returned to it and I kept returning to it. Then I had another break. So I want you to understand that in practice, I know what I'm actually sharing with you works today, and that book is out there and a way to further resource and support you. So if you want to, you can already have a look for it. You'll find Audacious Artistry by Lara Bianca Pilcher, even though we're not officially in pre-sale. But as a listener, have a look, pre-order it and let me know. Jump on social media, reach out and let me know. Remember again, consistency isn't perfection, it's presence. Keep returning and your art will meet you there, my friends. I am with you on the journey. New episodes every week drop Tuesday mornings, Eastern Standard Time, 5 a.m. And until next week, I am with you on the journey as always. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an inspiring conversation or actionable insight. You can read the show notes and learn more at larabiancapilcher.com. And be sure to share this episode with fellow artists who could use a little extra inspiration. Until next time, keep creating, stay audacious, and remember, your artistry matters.